Hello everyone and welcome to the demonstration video for PowerPoint Chapter 2. Alright, so in the first chapter you learned how to make a slideshow, a PowerPoint, just the basic text. You were able to apply a theme to it so it's not just the default black and white. And you did some image placement, transition, some nice visuals in that PowerPoint. So again, that could be enough to get the job done when presenting information. But in this chapter, Chapter 2, we're going to be teaching you all about graphics, so how to really make your PowerPoint pop a lot more with some other visuals you could use, as well as how you could edit those visuals in the PowerPoint itself. Okay. Of course, just as a reminder, if you want to take notes, digital or print it out, I have the skeleton notes here. Those are the skills we'll be going over today. And to follow along with this demo, please make sure you're downloading the landscaping proposal right here. Let's go ahead, give it a download. That's going to be the only download for today, and go ahead and open it up. Again, you could go to your File Explorer and go to the Downloads folder to access it. This is what the PowerPoint should look like, and go ahead and make sure you click Enable Editing. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look. We have basically, the main reason why I provide these files is it's just one giant template that you can mess around with. So if there's anything you want to experiment with, you could go ahead and use this template. Okay, but let's go ahead, let's do some, let's go back. So go to your first slide, slide 1, and let's choose the title, which says Landscaping Proposal. So remember I mentioned that any text, so everything when it comes to PowerPoint is seen as an object. It has this border around it, and that's how we could manipulate the object. I could move this. There we go. So if I just click around the border, I could move this wherever I want. I could make it smaller, although when it comes to text, it just squeezes in the text. You'd actually have to change the font style up here. But I can make it, the box itself, smaller, wider. There we go. And the same goes for images. So everything is object-based. Now, text itself, you could edit its appearance, and you're not just limited to the font group in your home tab. Notice when I select any placeholder, a new tab appears on the right side called Shape Format. Go ahead and click it. And what this is for the formatting for this text box, so this placeholder. There are some things you do have to know about when it comes to these different groups for the format. Here in the shape styles group, this is the shape style for the box itself. So you're probably wondering, how do I shape text? How do I shape these individual text? You don't really. Shape styles is for the box itself. So you could format text kind of as like a little, kind of like a placard. So if I want the background of this placeholder to be a different color from everything else, the shape fill allows you to fill in the shape itself. So notice when I hover over each color, there we go, it changes the entire background of that shape. So it's like you're filling it in like a tub. The shape outline indicates the border around it. So this border here that goes around the placeholder, you could change its color. And notice you have more options down here for how thick it is. So maybe I want this to be like a, there we go, dark orange. And it's kind of not visible on your screen. So let me go ahead and go back into the shape outline. Go to the weight. And let's make it bigger. There we go. All right, and there's other shape effects. These are different effects, such as, have you ever seen, there we go, there's different groupings, something like a reflection. You could hover over each one, there's specific names for them. There we go, and notice it gives a nice effect looking. Or a bevel makes it look like it pops out a little bit, but that applies just to the border. It's kind of hard to see, but let me see if I can zoom in. There we go. Notice it kind of looks like a picture frame a little bit. Okay, let me select my placeholder again, and let me go to the shape format. But you could mess around with these individual stylings and the shape styles, or you could just choose one of the pre-made shape styles, which is up here in these little boxes. You could click the drop down to see more, and you could scroll for more themes. There we go. And of course, when you hover over each one, it gives you a preview of what it should look like. Like maybe I like this, I could select it. There we go. And the theme is the style is applied to that placeholder. The same goes for any other text. Just make sure you're selecting the placeholder itself, and then you could change the theme as well. Okay. So that's shape styles. Now, if you want the text itself to look different, then you need to look at the WordArt styles. Again, when you do this, so if you want to edit all of the text in the placeholder, make sure you select around the borders of the placeholder so it's actually all selected. If you have this insertion point blinking inside of it, that's only going to affect either the chosen text or the text before it, after it, but not all of it. So keep that in mind. Okay, but let's mess around with the WordArt styles. Let me zoom in so you could see how it changes. Okay, let's go to, again, shape format group, WordArt styles. And there are preset ones. I could click on this drop down and notice there's a bunch of fun effects we could apply to this. Let me select this one. There we go. Or again, if you want to customize it yourself, there's the text fill, which kind of like with the shape fill, it fills in anything around the lines of the text itself. So notice if I try changing it to like a dark orange, the text itself turns dark orange. And for the outline, maybe if I want it to be a dark green, there we go. That's the lining around the text. And shape effects, if I don't like this weird kind of shadowy look, I could go into the shape effects and change it based on how we want. Maybe we just want, there we go, reflection. There we go. There's the shadows as well. There's plenty of more options you could choose from. Oop, let's do this. There we go. And at least for your project, please make sure you look in the bevel group. So there's an text effect you'll have to apply. Please make sure you look in the bevel group and hover your mouse over each option to find the one that we're looking for. Okay, but something like this gives like a 3D look, so it kind of looks like it's popping out of the screen. Okay, but those are different things you could do with your individual text. You could change the styles, and of course, you still have the home. There we go. You still have home to mess around with the font group. But the shape format is also for you to choose. Some other things I'll point out, it's not necessarily in your project, but this is things that can help you with editing, is things like, notice here, let me get this leaf over here. And notice when I move my leaf over here, it goes over the text. There's a certain placement to how objects are inserted into PowerPoint. It's kind of like stacking papers on each other. If you want instead the text to be over the leaf, then we'd have to go to, there we go. There's a certain arrangement. So in Home tab, Arrange, you could also find Arrange in different points of the tabs. But if you want to bring it to the very front, so kind of putting the paper at the very top of the stack, you could put Bring to Front. There we go. And it puts it in front of everything. And in the Arrange, there's different ways in which you could shuffle your stack. We could send it back to the very bottom. Bring it forward means that's being put in front of other objects. There we go. Again, just like if we're bringing it forward in a stack of papers. So just keep that in mind. That's one thing you could use in the shape format. Something else. The insert shapes over here. you could change how the shape of this box actually looks. For example, if you want to test it out, go to Shape Format tab, the Insert Shapes group, and click on the drop down for Edit Shape. Then click on Change Shape. And if you want this not to be a box, but maybe a circle or an oval, you could select the shape you want, oval. And look, it changes. We could still edit this so to try to fit everything. Oop, there we go. And then we could keep on formatting it. I could go to my Home tab, center it. There we go. Now it's looking a little nicer. Again, it's up to your preferences or what is expected of your work, but there are plenty of things to mess around with. One last thing about text. If you ever want to add in your own new text boxes, so maybe, again, kind of like with slide 2, usually text placeholders can be included for bullet points or titles, but let's go back to slide 1. If we want to add in our own little text, you'll go to your Insert tab, and then you're going to find a grouping called Text. There's going to be a button called Text Box, and you could go ahead and select it. And you'll notice your little cursor kind of becomes usually it's supposed to be a crosshair. I'm not sure if I like this symbol, but you'll get a little symbol on your screen, and you could go ahead and click and drag it. There we go, there's a crosshair to create a placeholder for your text, and you could type in and edit it as you need. Okay, so that's messing around with your text. There's a lot more you could do with this, but this will help you with making your PowerPoints really stand out. The next thing we'll cover is styling your images. So let's take a look at this leaf over here. You may have noticed that it has, here, let me bring it back to the front so you could take a better look. Another way I could do this is right click on the image and bring it to front. There we go. But you'll notice this leaf has a white box around it. Now, some images that you download online, it'll have what we call a transparent background, which basically it'll only fit into the shape of the image itself. And you could, even if you move it over text, you could see the text behind the image. But that's not the case for this leaf. And you're probably wondering, oh man, I have to go back and find a leaf with a transparent background. You could do it your own. So one method is using photo editing software to do the transparent background. That's probably the cleanest. But if you're on a quick time crunch, there's some tools here for you to use. So go to your picture format tab. There we go. So anytime you select a photo, you always have your picture format. And you'll notice on the far right, there's a button called Remove Background. I'm going to show you this first, and then I'm going to show you something I recommend. So click on Remove Background. And what you see here is, there we go, all of the magenta part is what's going to be turned transparent, basically chopped off. So when I do keep changes, notice it kind of cuts off points of my leaf, but at least now the white part is transparent. So notice when I put it over text, it's not blocked out by white. We could see through it. Let me go ahead and undo to when, there we go, undo back to when we had the white box around it. And let me see if this works one more time. Go to Remove Background. There we go. Now sometimes you have to click the button a couple times, but you'll notice there's two buttons here for mark areas to keep or mark areas to remove. You could click on one and it gives you a little, there we go, when you hover over the photo, it gives you a little pen symbol that you could draw over to try to tell PowerPoint what parts you do want to keep. This can be very tedious and it may not work exactly how you would want it. Okay. And if there were specific areas that you wanted to remove, but it's not removing it for you, like let's say maybe we don't want this stem, you could just draw over it. There we go. And it'll get rid of it. But I do want the stem, so let me get the mark areas to keep. hover over. Whoop. Yeah, notice very stingy. So now let me do keep changes. And this one looks a lot better. It didn't chop out the edges. So that's one method to remove the to create a transparent background. Let's undo this one more time. There we go. Let's just do discard all changes. There we go. Okay, one way I do recommend, especially if the background like this is solid color and different from the subject of the image, then you're going to go to the adjust group, click on the drop down for color, and go ahead and scroll down, and you'll see more options at the bottom, one of them being set transparent color. There we go. And now you'll see that we kind of have a weird pen symbol, and you're going to click on the background area, so the color of the background itself. So let me select this white area. There we go. And look, it's a lot more cleaner than the previous method. Okay, so again, there's some tools here for you to automatically do some editing on images. Notice there's a lot of other tools you have here for editing it, such as picture styles. Notice that these provide a specific framing around the image itself. This one actually blurs the edges. But like, let's say if we want to make it look like a frame leaf, you could go ahead and click on the white rotated image. There we go. And it makes it look like it's a tilted frame. Let me go ahead and undo. But there's a lot more you could do with this. Let's actually experiment with some of these features using something else. But also, I did want to point out, one of my students had fun with this by any images you add here in PowerPoint, you could keep on copying and pasting. So you could do your Control-C and Control-V, or you could right-click, copy, right-click over anywhere on your slide or to another slide, and you'll have your paste options. Do the one called Picture. There we go. And you could mess around with it. You could twist it around, mess around with its size, and kind of make it look like falling leaves. So let's actually go to the next skills. Let me go ahead and let's just do the site preparation and planting. So let's go to our Insert tab, and let's include an image from online sources. I kind of went over this in Chapter 1, but let me show you more in depth. Go to your Insert tab, and in the Images group, select Pictures. And you're going to go ahead and do Stock Images. And you should get this pop up. There we go. Which we could kind of use as a little search. So in the search bar, I could put in, let's find a plant. There we go. It'll give us a bunch of plant images, and let's select one that we like. For example, maybe let me narrow it down to potted plant. Okay, we got a little more. Let's go ahead and choose a lot of choices. Let's just choose this guy with a bunch of plants around him. And once you've selected it, click Insert. And it's downloading. There we go. And resize it to where it is to the right side of the screen. Okay, now let's do some styling. So of course, again, in your picture format, over here in the Adjust group, there's a lot of different things you could do, such as, remember the color? You could change how the color looks in the image. Like, let's say if we want it to look a lot more bright, vibrant, we could go to the color tone, select one of them, and look, it looks a little more sunny. Oh, in the color, let's make it a little more cold by, it doesn't show anything, or there we go, temperature. We can make it look colder or warmer. Artistic effects has different effects you can apply, such as make it look like the pastel smooth. Let me see what this does. It might take a moment. And it doesn't seem like it changed it much, but that's okay. But you can make it look black and white. Oh, actually it's loading in for me. Okay. But you can mess around with those effects, and also how transparent is your image. Notice if you set it to 50% transparency and you put it over text, you can still see the text through the image. Let me put it back to 100% so you could see. Let me actually change the artistic effects back since it seems like my computer is kind of getting angry. Okay, there's a lot more you could do. And in the picture styles, I mentioned the styles itself. You could kind of add framings around the image or do that little mirror effect. And then the borders is the border of the image itself. For example, if I want to do this dark yellow, let's make it bolder. So it looks kind of brown. There we go. And then you could apply effects to the image, which again is just very specific stylings like you have here. We could do a shadow. I like doing my shadow effects. Let's click the drop down again. You could add multiple effects to the same image. Let's do mirrored. There we go. Perfect. Now do notice this mirror effect goes off the screen. It's only going to show what is within this square, so just keep that in mind. Okay, but those are different images you could include for your PowerPoint. Let's go over to slide 2 just so we have a blank slate, or kind of a blank slate. If you remember from your Microsoft Word, there was something we called icons, which is basically just tiny little image snippets that we could use throughout the document. The same goes here in PowerPoint, which you'll still find in your Insert tab. And quite honestly, it just works exactly the same as you expected. Let's go to our icons. So illustrations group, icons. And you could look for something. Let's find a tree. There we go. And you can select one of these trees, or if these aren't to your liking, notice there's other tabs up here. You could look up, these are images for trees, but there's also the stickers, videos, illustrations, and cartoon people. Let's say in illustrations, we like one of these trees, like, oh, here, let's do this apple tree. Select it and click insert. There we go. And now we have a tree that we can mess around with. And notice in the graphics group, we still have things to edit, such as we could give it a different style. Let's say maybe we have orange apples. If we want the apples to be red, then we could do the graphics fill and find something red like this. There we go. And the graphics outline, that's just the outlining of, let me zoom in, the outlining around the trees itself. Let's find something with a brown, or actually a green. There we go. And then we can make it thicker to make it more prominent. All right. So icons is also something you could mess around with. Let's go back to our insert. There are plenty more to be had with inserting different tools. Even notice here in the illustrations group, there's a section called shapes. You could create kind of your own flow charts in this way. Let me go over here to the cost distribution just so we have a very blank slate. But if you go to your illustrations, click on the drop down for shapes and do like a rectangle. I could grab that, put it here. There we go. And you could edit this rectangle how you want. Heck, you could even start, I think this one you could start typing. Yeah, and you could treat it like a text box. So like this could be like step 1. Let's go back to our insert to put in more shapes. So another box, this is step 2. Another way to insert shapes actually is in your shape format group, all the way on the left. You could just select, this is a selection of the shapes you could find. You could click on more to find more. And let's find an arrow, more like a thick arrow like this here. And then I could click and hold across. There we go. And you could create charts in this way. So again, a lot of fun to be had. However, even though we have this shape objects, we still have a tool called our SmartArt Graphics. If you remember in our Word chapter, let's go to slide. Actually, let's go ahead and delete the shapes here so we could clear it. To delete any objects, you just select it, and let's go ahead and click the delete key or backspace. There we go. Select backspace. And if you want to select multiple objects at once, if you remember in the Excel chapter, you could hold down on the control key and select. There we go. Okay. So SmartArt Graphics, let's go ahead and go back to our Insert tab. And in the Illustrations group, there's also SmartArt that you could include. And it works exactly like it does with Word documents, just a lot more interactable. So let's click on SmartArt, go to and select whichever SmartArt you would like. Let me choose one that applies more to your project, like the continuous picture list. Let's click OK. There we go. And again, you could style it exactly like how you did in the Word document. So let's make it pop a little more like 3D, change the colors to more of a green. There we go. And you could keep on adding text into it. So let me like a plant, flower, tree. Other things with SmartArt is I could click into the image icons here, and then you could choose from a file on your computer to upload, select an image from online or stock images, or do icons. Okay. So again, works exactly how you did with Word document. You could go back to that video to review it. Let me click over here. There you go. And this is, again, another way in which you could format the text in the SmartArt. All right. Now, one cool thing is, since PowerPoint is all about visuals and bullet points, they do have a feature that allows you to convert a placeholder with bullet points to SmartArt. So let's say, actually let's go to slide 3. Let's say here, this text, these bullet points, I want to turn into a SmartArt graphic, so make it pop out a lot more. You're going to select the placeholder itself, go to your Home tab, and in the paragraph group, you'll see the symbol for the SmartArt graphic. And when you hover over it, it says Convert to SmartArt Graphic. Go ahead and select it, and it'll give you recommended options for for different graphics you could use. But if you're looking for one specifically, click on More SmartArt Graphics, and go ahead and find the one that is to your liking. So maybe we want this to be a list, and let's find something that's just a normal blocks. Here, let's try this out, the table hierarchy, and click OK. Whoa, and it kind of covers our image. Let me get this image and make it smaller. There we go. Actually, let's move it out of the way just so it doesn't get in the way of the SmartArt graphic. But notice, it turned that text into SmartArt. It didn't erase it. Whoa, let me undo. But it didn't erase it. It just included it in the SmartArt graphic, and you could edit it as you want. If you ever don't want to, so let's say you created a graphic, but you want to go back to just the normal bullet points, you could select the graphic, go to your Format tab, actually SmartArt Design, there we go. You can go to SmartArt Design, then go and click on Convert, and then you can click Convert to Text, and it'll turn it back into the bullet points. Okay, so a lot of this is kind of review from what you did with the Word documents. Again, just a lot more fancier, and you could present these to your peers, colleagues, work. Okay, the last thing I'll show you, let's go to slide 4 for a blank slate, is including tables and charts. Let's go to the Insert tab, And to include tables, this is kind of exactly how you did with the Word documents. It's just a lot more, how would you say, a lot more freeing. You'll see a tables group, and if you click on the drop down for tables, setting it up is the exact same way as you did with Word. You could use this grid to indicate how many columns and rows you want, or you could click insert table and select how many columns and rows you want. Maybe I want 2 columns, and let's do 5 rows for now. There we go. And you could click into each of these cells and start typing in text. Whoa. Make sure we use our tabs to go over. There we go. Just some random stuff I'm typing in. But you could include text. You could change the style of your table styles by going to your table design and choosing one style that works. Your table options are over here if you want to indicate a header row, banded rows, if there's a first column that you're indicating, and so on. Even down to the shading. There we go. Just make sure you're choosing the correct cells you want to change. Same for the table layout. If we go over there, you could insert rows with these buttons, or you could delete rows based on, again, what you're selecting. You could use the cell size to change the width and height of cells individually. Or you could just go to the table itself and then use these, use the white dots to make it wider. It's not doing it for me for whatever reason, but you could go ahead. Usually the white dots you could use to make it wider, smaller, or you could just use the table layout and choose the heights and such. There's also the table size that you could utilize for the table in general. Okay, so that's including a tables. That's something you can mess around with. Let me move this to the side. Something that's not part of your project but you could work with is go back to your Insert tab and go ahead and select Chart. So you could include charts from the Excel features straight into your PowerPoint. And actually you could create a chart immediately from here by, let's select the one we do want, such as, let me do the pie, and let me just do a normal pie chart. Click OK. And when you're creating it, there we go. It'll pop up a mini Excel for you. So this isn't a file being created on your computer. It's just a file being used to create this chart in your PowerPoint. So you could edit this how you would want, such as right now this is showing different sales. If you need to edit each of these groupings, you just go into the cell. Like notice this is showing for each slice of the pie. We could say that this is flowers. So how much are we spending on flowers? How much are we spending on trees, shrubs, grass? And if we want to keep adding, we could just click to the next row, soil, and add in information. Maybe this is, there we go. And you could edit the information accordingly, see how it reacts down below. And when you're done, you just hit the X. Perfect. And if you ever need to edit the data, that's all up here in your chart design or the format. Very similar to what you did with Excel, it's just now put into your PowerPoint. So that's if you need to make a chart on the fly. Of course, if you have one in Excel, you could just copy and paste that chart made in Excel into your PowerPoint. It's that simple. All right, so those are some quick tools to make your PowerPoints look lovely. This one isn't looking lovely so much because I was just messing around, toying around with everything. But quite honestly, that's the best way you're going to learn. Just getting a random file or making a random file and just messing around with the features. Explore what you could do. You'll notice there is quite a bit of ways to add cool effects to your PowerPoints. All right, of course, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me.